Hello, welcome along to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
It's a beautiful Friday morning from here in Lagos. I'm Kayode Kilu.
Good morning and welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makinde. Every issue always hits us here, every morning on the program. And we've been talking about so much, guys, about insecurity in the country over and over and over again. And it would look like, wait a minute, what exactly is happening? I think it was how many months ago? Was it last year or the year before? We're talking about the one of the causes or the catalysts of insecurity in the country. Of course, it was drilled down to the use of illicit drugs. And, of course, a lot of noise went about, and we've been hearing all kinds of things, how that it was rampant and how that, something needs to be done to manage it better and all of that. And then, of course, whose job is that? One of the security agencies, which is the NDLEA. And so one natural question would be, what's the NDLEA be doing? Of course, do a Google search right now. Since the new chairman came on board, what will you find? Everything is about NDLEA intercepts this, NDLEA seizes that, NDLEA seizes that, NDLEA naps that, doing a lot of work lately. And then the question you're asking yourself is, so what's going on? Next thing, we hear that the NDLEA is admonishing, look, wait a minute, we're being owed a lot of money, up to 4 billion naira. And it would seem like that's about the only thing that is of the most grievous concern to the chairman of the NDLEA now. So the question is awash. And then the question you also want to be asking is, if one of the security agencies in the country is being owed 4 billion naira. So as a matter of fact, the chairman said, of course, you will probably listen to the clip, virtually every staff in the organization is being owed one thing or the other. Morale is very low. And if morale is low and they're being owed so much, and they've been able to do this within the past, how many weeks? Question is, what's the motivation?
Absolutely. And I think you've identified a major problem, challenge really, not just for the NDLEA, for other agencies of government. So we have agencies that are meant to combat security, for example. You have the police, the military, and the rest. And so there's good. Let me just use this analogy. There's good and evil, right, in some sense. So we have our own agencies as good, trying to combat the evil. So when you look on the side of evil, don't worry, I'll be done soon. When you look on the side of evil, you see how much funds they get, how much, equipment. You see their ammunition. You see how well kitted they are, how well taken care of they are on that one hand. And then you see good, in some sense, lamenting from time to time, saying we need better equipment, we need, better welfare. I mean, we talked about this, I think, 2 days ago. We saw the dailies also reporting that, some soldiers actually deserted because of welfare, even though, the military heads have responded to that. But this is a present challenge. So my issue here is, if we don't fund good as much as evil is funded,
The natural thing is going to happen.
So you bought into my analogy at the end of the
Most
day.
certainly, no, I wasn't against it.
Okay.
I was just waiting for where it was going.
So the idea is, if NDLEA is saying we're not well funded,
And the police are saying the same, and everyone else is saying the
yes,
same.
and you know how well funded the drug barons are. You can imagine how huge the industry is. I mean, not just in Nigeria, it's a global thing. So if we're not funding the NDLEA as much, I mean, maybe not as much. Maybe you can't match the funds really, because a lot of them are illicit funds. But just do well enough for them, such that a lot of them don't compromise. Because let's be honest, when the rubber hits the road, some of them do compromise when they weigh the options, see that, okay, so what is left for me when I retire, for example? That is no excuse. Okay? What is wrong is wrong. Good is good, evil is evil. I'm still staying with my analogy. So when they look at, when they weigh the options and say, well, maybe it might pay me to do evil, at least when I don't get caught, then they begin to compromise. So I think we should do well enough for them, at least, so that they don't have those excuses. Because if they have done this well in the past, how many months? Just a few weeks, rather. If they've done this well, imagine how well they will do if they get those funds. By the way, that's a good way to really request for something. Show results and then make your requests. And I don't think you get enough. So I look forward to seeing what the National Assembly will do, because the request went to the National Assembly, and then of course.
Can NDLA ever get, I mean, they're members of staff, can they ever get enough funds compared to what you guys said about how well those drug guys are?
So maybe they can't match, because I mean, it's illicit funds. It comes from the wrong sources, but at least ensure that they're well sorted, so they don't have to, rack their heads to get transport, for example.
Even though whoever is going to be greedy will be greedy.
Oh, absolutely. But just ensure they're well taken care of, welfare, transport. I mean, they don't have to worry just to fuel their vehicles to go for an operation. They don't have to worry where they will stay, what kind of hotel, because believe me,
like those members of staff in River State now.
Oh, yeah. So
now that they have a fuel dump, they have everything. Some states also do have it. So whatever little things you need, you could always go get it.
Add to your comments, Chamberlain, the fact that if we don't fund good, evil will attract good.
Thank you. My analogy is making waves this morning.
Even though not that these things are rocket science, but you just wonder why does it appear as though it's so much of a challenge? So what does it take sometimes? And how come previous NDLA bosses didn't even see this kind of gap? Or is it that, they tried, they couldn't make any headway? Well, who knows?
If you look at where, of course, the new chairman is coming from, he's been chairman of that committee for a while, appointed by the president and reporting directly to the president. So some gaps may have been obvious to him before the time. And just as you said, it's a management tactic to produce results and then ask, for more capabilities. Perhaps a good thing for us to do. Let's hear from the proverbial horse's mouth. It's just for a few seconds. Just hear him yourself and hope that, at least you will be able to appeal to the good conscience of everyone who cares.
This is an agency that we need to demonstrate readiness. Unfortunately, the state of readiness is very, very weak. The morale, above all, is the weakest that I've ever met in any paramilitary institution. Almost every single staff is owed either a DTA allowance or his allowance for prosecution, the movements to and fro, court processes, or transfer, traveling. There's over 4 billion naira owed just for the staff and death benefits. So morale is so low, there's stagnation, the promotions, postings, because there's no money. First is we need urgent intervention to support us. The agency is in dire need of funding, and that is completely not provided for to fight this war.
Of the dailies, we start with Nigerian Tribune this morning. Drug barons funding terrorists, bandits. Senate President Buhari directs tighter security at nation's borders. Customs officers not present at Adamawa Yobe Theatre of War Zones. That's the Controller General. So, what does this think to you guys? I mean, did they select where they'll be present? Why are they not present in these areas? How long have they not been present for? What could have been going on in these areas where they're not present?
Oh, the question is just
How much damage could they have caused?
What will it cost us for us to get them present there?
Wow. Is it lucrative? Or is
What
it
has
because...
been keeping them away?
Wow. So,
and then this you know, we said at the time that evil could attract good.
and this is the theater of war area, so nobody. So that gives a picture of what we're dealing with here. So, wow. And then you see Falana, Northern Groups plan nationwide campaign, demand residents register. Northeast governors back community policing. If those that instigated civil war were pardoned, why not? Why that? Okay, there you go. So you get to see 2023, Nigerians want me to replicate Kogi success at national level. Governor Bello says, North-South Peace Initiative, not political. Okay, guys, this is 21. Just that you know, remember, in case. COVID-19, Buhari Oshibajo Mustafa to receive vaccine publicly tomorrow. Local vaccines possible in a year, Health Minister. That is a lot. Well, I mean, you know, some of our guests have spoken about this yesterday, previously, time and again. What is happening to us about getting at least something done locally here? And then you see 5 arrested over fake COVID-19 certificate at Lagos Airport. Well, it's good. I don't know why. Well, people just capitalize. I mean, I think you guys spoke about that time. I thought, why would people want to almost anything that you want to fake? Well, people need to be a lot more careful.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going about some of these things, don't think that, now they had to pay the price. So you see that? But, oh yeah, take a look at what's on the back page. I'm in a dilemma over Eagles' return, Igalo. Wow. Well, if I have as many good strikers as possible, you never can tell. I mean, you have new chaps too, popping up in the EPL and elsewhere. So, could give them a run.
The question is, will some of them want to play for Nigeria?
You know, some of them already don't have the invitation of those other countries. So there's 1 or 2. So you never can tell. So go for Varane, not Mbappe. John Barnes tells Liverpool. So that's Tribune this morning.
Well, for the Vanguard, the lead story is quite shocking. 60 women, children abducted in fresh Zamfara attack. Zamfara imposes curfew, suspends market activities in Jengebe. Commanders of bandit groups meet in Niger forests, chart way for peace. That's according to the Niger government. Okay, so the bandit groups have commanders. But yeah. A military jets bomb bandits in Birnin Guari, so that's the kinetic angle to that, you might say. Oh dear, and the picture on the front page, it's not a picture from pre-COVID. It's a picture from yesterday, actually. People still trooping to NIMC office at Alausai Keja to have their national identification number enrollment. And you can see the social distance in there. There's so much.
And the masks.
Oh, there's so much of them too. That's sarcasm, by the way. But, you know, right under that, you see Niger Delta Group's fume over recruitment at PEF. And the sad one, veteran actor Sadiq Daba buried as Nigerians pay tributes. It's on page 7. Just right on top of the nameplate, this one. Lagos impounds 200 trucks as gridlock persists on Oshodi, Apapa Expressway. So how long will the task force team hold on this one? Because as you would expect, going back to that good and evil analogy again, there are those who want to scuttle this whole process. But we'll see how this holds, really. It's on page 11. Sports page has some interesting stories for you. Benin names PSG star Enyimba defender, others for Eagles. So that'll be an interesting one. And okay, that Liverpool-Chelsea match didn't quite make the back page. Oh, I'm choosing not to see it. But
At least now we know where your political leaning is.
oh dear, is that political? I just can't see the story, for crying out loud. It's not there. Or is it?
Oh, you are not looking.
Okay, that's a banger for you.
looking but not seeing.
And now we know. So in case you were wondering, now you know. The Daily Trust newspaper leads with something a little more, I don't know, but it's a counsel from the federal, to the federal government. Target vulnerable poor with COVID-19 vaccine. FG urged, stories on page 5, it should not be politicized, say experts. H's with registration portal. And states express readiness to reach all. Again, find all of that story on the inside pages. You find this picture on the front pages of activities at Ilepo Market in Lagos. What that is about, the details will be on the inside, I guess. Faulty internal memo responsible for 101 missing soldiers reports. As from the Army. Kade referenced that earlier, the story you'll find on page 8 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And so many others on the inside pages. Well, that's the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Malcolm?
Well, good morning, guys. Listening to your conversation around NDLEA and good and evil, quite interesting. But let's look at what Leadership Friday has for us this morning. You see there, change tactics, retired generals tell service chiefs. That's what's on the front page. Say state of emergency in banditry ravaged state will end terror. Okay, so are they advising that they declare a state of emergency? Because some people have said what the federal government did in Zamfara was stopping short of declaring a state of emergency. But you see this now, change tactics. Retired generals tell service chiefs. Northeast governors to form own security outfit. What effect will that have? We'll wait and see. Bandits abduct 70, burn houses in Zamfara. So the banditry is still going on. Use the page 4 read for you. A number of other stories there. Abduction, we won't scrap boarding schools as according to states. Develop security template for students, workers' safety. Immigration installs technology to monitor borders from headquarters. Yeah, I think we heard about that some time ago when the immigration boss was on our program. He did say that they were working on that. It looks like it's all set now. And you see this, states yet to meet conditions won't get COVID-19 vaccines, as according to the federal government. PMB Oshibajo to be vaccinated tomorrow. Yes, on live TV, they will be collecting their shots. Well, we'll leave it there for, well, just before I go, look at back page, as he's writing. And for those who follow him, you might want to read what he has to say on this one. But let's leave it there for Leadership Friday.
Look at blueprints next. Today they've got something similar as well, the blueprint. As COVID-19 vaccination starts Saturday, FG vows not to consider states yet to meet conditions. We're ready, governors, meaning no excuse not to give us or consider us. And then you see Ogun, Imo waiting to receive vaccines. UBEC expands 20 billion naira on pandemic. Oh, I beg your pardon. UBEC expends 20 billion naira on pandemic. So you may like to see what that is about and how connected that is to anything. And then you equally see farmers' headers clash threatens repayment of CBN's ABP loans. So this is going, of course, it's taking a lot of hits, and the impact will be telling us Blueprint is reporting this morning. Appointments, developments, Niger Delta Group alleges injustice, also featuring here, but that's Blueprints this morning.
We'll take a look at Nigerian News Direct, which leads with insecurity. Drug barons funding terrorist bandits. That's according to the Senate President, says Nigeria a transit route for traffickers. So those are two issues he raised, drugs and trafficking. So that's for the MDLE and I guess for NAPTIP and other concerned agencies of government. That story is on page 3. And this one, quite interesting, really. Ambitious, you might say. FIRS targets 5.9 trillion naira income for 2021. So that's one side to that story. So targeting that amount means that, I mean, the money is not coming from where? It's not coming from the air. It's coming from Nigeria. So you might need to make more money, really, so that we can hit that target. Talking to businesses and individuals, because we have a target, as it seems. And finally, Lagos set to produce brand new cars as Sanwo-Olu's assembly planned agreement. That's Nigeria News Direct.
All right, the Daily Times newspaper is talking about security. Government moves to tighten security around borders. That's to where the Daily Times newspaper leads this morning. And the story you'll find on page 2 of the paper. On desertion, Army denies story of troops desertion after Boko Haram attacks in Northeast. That story is on page 4 of the paper. Vaccine, Buhari, Osinbajo, Mustafa to get vaccine jabs tomorrow. Strategic leaders?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, stories on page 2. Cryptocurrency finds its way to the front page of the Daily Times again. Why ban on $600 million cryptocurrency transaction market may be short-lived. Who is saying that? Who does that story excite? Page 22 of the Daily Times newspaper has a story for you this morning. And right above the nameplate, same story about drugs. Drug barons funding terrorists and bandits, says Lawan, who is the president of the Senate. The details, of course, continue on the inside pages. That's the Daily Times newspaper today.
Get vulnerable poor with COVID-19 vaccine, federal government urged. It should not be politicized, as according to experts. HIS registration portal states express readiness to reach all. Looking at other stories here, Buhari orders security beef up at borders. That's also there. Gunmen abduct 50 in Zamfara, burn houses. Sometimes you have to ask, why do the figures of human beings always seem very inconsistent? One breath you see 70, next breath you see 50. And I think at every point in time, we should bear in mind that these are figures of people, human beings. But whether 50, whether 70, the situation is indeed worrisome. What is going on in Zamfara? Looking at the bottom here, 40 internal memo responsible for 101 missing soldiers report. That's according to the army. We did hear that 101 of them had abducted, but the army came out strong to say, no, that's not what happened. We're blaming it on this memo. Looking at a number of other stories at the bottom there, police rearraign doctor over false rape allegations is on page 31. We'll leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
Look at some of the dailies here as well. We're back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Well, naturally, we want to talk about that. What's next now going forward? Of course, when we talk about health, guys, we are talking about the
Wealth.
Okay.
Have you had your chocolate
Health
this
is
morning?
wealth. This is what they say.
But that's
When
true.
they say
though.
health is wealth,
That's
this is
what
what
they
they
say.
say.
Well, there's actually a lot to talk about. You know, of course, the NMA has been, slightly concerned about the administration and modalities of people getting the jabs of
Yeah.
COVID-19 and all of that. So it'll be good to find out how far so far. What's their position now? Has it changed? Has it been improved? What are
Because
the other
the enemy had
concerns?
some concerns about how are they going to go ahead with these vaccines, health workers.
Yeah.
So now that you heard that committee speak about these kind of things, who will be vaccinated publicly, how should they proceed with it? What has changed?
Especially because today the vaccines will be unveiled
Yep.
officially. Yes, the president, vice president, and the SGF will get it tomorrow. But
Somebody did ask me, why did they have to unveil it? I said, well, I don't know. I wasn't there yesterday.
That banner is still.
yeah, there was
it's still
a
interesting.
reception of the vaccine, so there needs to be an unveiling.
Reception, oh boy.
But
They're
beyond
going to
this,
cut the tape of the vaccine.
there was a photo of
Why
most
do
of
we
the-
do this kind of thing? What we do in this part of the world, sometimes you just ask yourself.
Maybe old
and don't
habits,
forget,
really.
look, we did manufacture these vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know that several other countries, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But we know the kind of message we're trying to pass across. They said it there. If it takes us 1 year to manufacture, get something here, fine. But importantly, we'd like to see those steps that we're taking. Because if we have, this is what we want to do in 1 year, then you need to map out, okay, what do we have to do in 1 month, 2, 3, to get us where we are or where we want to be in 12 months.
Mind you, a lot of countries that are leading in this fight against COVID, especially in the vaccine areas, they put measures in place not 1 year ago.
Yep.
They put these measures in place 10, 20 years ago. India, for example, has been the peculiar case. I mean, that term about India leapfrogging, earlier on. So
Yeah.
now, over the past 10, 15 years, they had been building capacity. And now, naturally, India is now like the largest producer of vaccine right now. The vaccine we got was produced in India. In fact, the vaccine Canada got was produced in India, this particular one. The one South Africa got was produced in India. This is the largest shipment they have put out for Nigeria. That's almost 4 million. So you can imagine just how much vaccines India is producing right now. Why? Because they put those measures in place not 1 year, but 10, 15 more years ago.
And when I listen to some doctors, there's some famous doctors, Dr. Devi and the rest of his team and those who have funded them in the private sector, they always say, look, don't, what was the word they said? Don't praise government for what we've done here. Government didn't do this. It just happened because private sector people, they wanted to do something, they got in there, folded their sleeves, got down to work, and got this kind of results. So it just tells you developing countries seem to have some things in common.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you remember that Professor Tomori was saying that, it's not really about what we did, but what the virus did not do.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of work to do, really. I think we're doing as much as we can with what we have on ground, but a lot of lessons to be learned. I mean, this 1 year that the Minister of Health spoke about, just how feasible is it, as you mentioned, that technology transfer, really.
Well, I think that's a mirage if you're looking for someone to come transfer some things to you. But importantly, guys, let's not forget, too, the wealthy people here, the Forbes listers here, these are areas they need to look to. There's a huge opportunity in the health
It's a
sector.
business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So.
I don't even know where to begin because what you guys are talking about, historical antecedents of some nations. It's not like we didn't have this trajectory with us. We had these things for very, very many decades. At what point did we lose them? Well, perhaps that's a subject for another time. But right now we have the president of the Nigeria Medical Association, NMA, Professor Innocent Fuja. He joins us virtually from Uyo. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Prof. Well, how the government is going to roll out, how the vaccines is going to be rolled out, the administration, the modalities, clearly those things are some of your concerns as well. I mean, one that I found very, very interesting actually is the fact that you were equally concerned. I'm wondering why people needed to register. I don't know. Has your position changed on any of these concerns that you have raised hitherto?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. Let me just say that we are happy that the vaccines have eventually come and that Nigerians are going to have access to the COVID-19 vaccine. The preparation had been on. What we had said, and it's not peculiar to this vaccine, is that we have to implement our policies in the way that we all will appreciate. And that means that the right thing should be done. Let there be some level, in fact, not level, some coordination, because one of the problems we have is coordination. If there is coordination and it is stated as in the policy, then there will be minimal concerns. I mean, there will be minimal problems. But where it becomes chaotic and everybody does whatever he wants to do, and also the fact that it should not be diverted to anybody. We have a cycle, we have cycles of administration, and that is the health workers first. The second is those who are 60 and above. The third is those who have comorbidities. Like we have said severally, hypertension, diabetes, renal conditions, and cancers. So if we are able to do this effectively with clear monitoring and documentation, I believe that this will be one area that we have learned some lessons from the mistakes of the past, particularly areas of Ebola in 2014. There were no the documentations were not as we expect. So documentation is important. Once we have this done, then that we probably were right. But the issue of registration, I had to inquire, after a discussion on channels, why do we have to register? And I was told that it's part of learning or a part of documentation. They want to see how many people will register, and others who could not register will be assisted. So in that wise, I say, this is one area that we probably will need to put our documents in place. If we can document and use this, as experience of the administration of COVID-19 vaccine, then we would have done a lot. Because at the end of it all, we will need to compare with the experiences of other countries, and we need to have this experience. We need to know who has been vaccinated. We need to know who has one side effect or the other, at the end of the day, we should be able to say clearly that yes, we have vaccines, we have had vaccines, we have administered vaccines. These are our experiences. These are the number of people that are being vaccinated, and then of course that is the beginning of monitoring. We need to then monitor over the time to find out of those who had vaccines, how many of them still had COVID, because that is important, and that is where we're recording what we call efficacy. So if we are able to get that the issue of vaccine, there are two components. There are two issues, sorry. One is the efficacy, two is the safety. And we have to put everything in place to monitor the efficacy and the safety. Because at the end of it all, we must come back to disseminate these findings and say, this is how much we have done, this is the level of efficacy, this is the safety measures, that will be the safety of the vaccines, and then we compare it with other international communities. Okay. In that case, Nigeria would have achieved something from COVID-19.
Yeah, Prof, I'm sure we'll get to the issue of safety and efficacy in a bit, but talking about the administration and the modalities that you talked about, given the comment and position of the federal government over time that the structures of the NPHCDA is what is going to be used, aren't you comfortable that the NPHCDA has enough structures to address some of the concerns of administration and modalities that you're talking about?
Well, it is true. There's no doubt that NPHCDA has done well in area of polio and other vaccine-preventable diseases. And we expect that they would carry out this with minimal issues. But again, we need to put ourselves in place. We must be prepared, because let us not just be ambivalent on the issue of, yes, we have NPHCDA, they have done this before, they do it well. The essence is to ensure that if we are able to situate ourselves well, then NPHCDA should be able to do this. They have the experience, and they have, they have deployed their emergency operation centers effectively and incident management centers. So we will expect that there will be minimal hitches, but you all know the other we don't have they don't have ambulance or vehicles, no vehicles to move the vaccines from one place to the other, or all those that are participating, they are not even paid their daily tour allowance. And one of the issues that is in place now is that the health workers are not being paid their hazard allowance, and that becomes a problem. We don't want any issue that will truncate this process. The doctors, other health workers have not been paid their hazard allowance, and this may become an issue later. And we should nip it in the bud. There is some disquiet, and I'm advising the Federal Ministry of Health that they should quickly respond to this, put this in place, so that it does not, this does not truncate the process that have been put in place by federal government. They spend so much money to ensure that Nigerians get the vaccine, and the Nigerians should get the vaccines without undue interruption. One of the areas that I see is if the hazard allowance issue has not been put in place or is not being paid, then there'll be a problem. But I can assure you that the Nigerian doctors are very committed to this cause, and we will support the government in whatever way we can. But I also want the Federal Ministry of Health to do its own bit, because the Federal Ministry of Health is the organ. The NPHCDA is under the Federal Ministry of Health, and ensure that these things are monitored so that no individual will use it to his own advantage. You all know what I'm talking about. We need to monitor, we need to supervise. People need to be motivated. People need to be paid what is their due. And Nigerians should get the services that they deserve.
Prof, concerning the hazard allowance which you referenced, are you saying there are some doctors or health workers at large who have not received hazard allowances? Because I thought that issue was sorted months ago. So what is the state of hazard allowances for doctors, health workers generally?
Well, Chamberlain, I'm surprised that they are not aware that the hazard allowance that was negotiated stopped after 3 months. So if we look at that, get back in August or so, from May, it was paid April, May, and June. From July to date, what is being paid to doctors and other health workers is 5,000 naira a month. And we have discussed this severally. The federal government has kept quiet. Federal Ministry of Health has not said anything. The Federal Ministry of Labor is quiet about this. And I don't want a situation where there is disruption. And if we don't want any disruption, then we must be proactive. If we have to be proactive, then we need to pay the hazard allowance. Even if new ones are not negotiated, the one that was negotiated should continually be paid. The feeling was that the COVID-19 was going to go off in December. That was the thinking. And you see, that was not scientific, as you can see now, that we are now back to the trenches again. So we do not want any situation to disrupt the commitment of the doctors and health workers. It is most appropriate for agencies of government to do the needful, because I don't think the president will be happy if this investment is disrupted, and it should not be disrupted. And if it's not to be disrupted, then the Federal Ministry of Health should do what it should do and pay all health workers the allowances that is their due. Nigerian health workers are showing uncommon commitment to this cause, and no individual or group of individuals should disrupt the good intentions of government. I believe that the Mr. President will not be happy if this process is interrupted because somebody is not doing what he's supposed to do. So This is my advice, and you can see we are early in this process to advise the Federal Ministry of Health to do the needful.
Right. So, it's disheartening to see that we're back at this hazard allowance again. But Kayode here, by the way, Chamberlain, will be speaking to you in a moment. But to what extent, really, can this non-payment of hazard allowance disrupt the vaccine rollout? Just help paint a picture for us.
Well, ordinarily it should not, but it will if there is not early intervention. I mean, we're talking about people putting themselves on online for Nigeria. It's like putting yourself on a death row. Many of us have died. Many of our colleagues have died. Both doctors and other health workers have died in the process of providing service to his nation, which is a good thing to do. So they pay the spring price. But in doing so, we need to do what we should do. For instance, apart from the fact that the hazard allowance have not been paid, the life insurance issue that we talked about has now gone to sleep. And when people begin to wake it up in a way that probably is not appropriate, people will just say that doctors have come again. I mean, why do we have to then go back and forth, and say, and people are not doing what they should do? Will you blame the president for this? Will you blame the president that life insurance cover has not been given to doctors and other health workers in this precarious situation we find ourselves? Will you blame the Mr. President that have not been paid? Some people are not doing what they should do, and they should do it. Because, you see, we know that hazard allowance is not a replacement for life. But you see, there's what we call motivating factors. People have to be given some incentive to do the work. Let them show commitment. Let them show more commitment. And like I said, the Nigerian doctors are very, very, very committed. And that's why, despite all these obstacles that we find ourselves, they are still working. But they are grumbling.
Right.
They are working and they are grumbling.
The question
and we
would
shouldn't allow this grumbling to come to the open.
Right. So the question will be, are the staff, that's the health workers with NPHCDA, who are primarily going to be involved in this vaccine rollout, are they also being owed the hazard allowances and other issues which you raised, like health insurance? Are they also affected?
Well, it is difficult for me to say. I'm not a paymaster. So it is difficult for me to say whether they are being paid. It will be unlikely if they are being paid. But I think there's what we call universal applicability. We should apply to everybody.
Right.
You see, the truth of the matter is that any doctor or any health worker that has seen any patient now, that patient is likely to have COVID unless proven otherwise. And therefore, the issue of protection, and we talked about PPEs previously, and we are still talking about that there should be sustained provision of PPEs. But in addition to PPEs, people who are providing service should be covered with life insurance. They should also be paid as hazard allowance. And other allowances, in fact, what we call inconvenience allowance. Remember that hazard allowance is not the same as inconvenience allowance, because doctors, other health workers move to places where they should not. Ordinarily, they are displaced from their places, or they relocate because of the services they are providing for the country. And right. I commend their effort. I commend their effort because it is not easy for a family person to leave his home to an area that is totally unfamiliar with, and provide service. And I think that the Federal Minister of Health should do right. his job. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on that. It's only fair to ensure that, these health workers who are putting, their lives on the line should get compensation as due. I'd also like us to talk about this vaccine, because I know you are head of NMA, and you understand, this process. So NAFDAC is meant to have finished off with the, checking of the vaccine for safety, I believe, not for the efficacy. Are you aware of which NAFDAC is checked or has checked for safety or efficacy or both?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not aware. It should have been put out for us to see. The issue of safety, it is. I suppose that NAFDAC will bring out their data very quickly, because we must work with evidence. It's not enough for us to say we've done this and it is safe. No, we must see the evidence that it is. In fact, this is the number of people that were used. This is the outcome. We need to see it. Like you say rightly, we can't talk about the efficacy at the moment because it's too early to say. And you know that this is emergency authorization. Otherwise, like I had said earlier, it would have gone to gone for phase 3 clinical trials in Nigeria. But because of the emergency authorization, because of the urgency of need, this had to be waived from our own country. But NAFDAC will have to bring out figures and facts about the issue of safety that they probably have done. I don't have any doubt about NAFDAC, but we need to have evidence. It is evidence that is scientific, and these are not impressions. So we would want to see very quickly, and everybody has the right to know what has been the safety components of the vaccine that NAFDAC looked at. So in that case, we will have more confidence in what we are getting, and of course, Nigerians, we will be very willing to embrace the vaccines. I'm not saying that Nigerians are not willing, but the confidence is very important, because as you know, there have been series of controversies about vaccines, and people are usually very worried on taking vaccine. You remember the issue of polio that we talked about, which had to be sorted out by using traditional methods like traditional rulers and religious rulers before it was accepted and were able to eradicate polio, which was a good thing. So what I'm saying, in effect, is that NAFDAC should bring evidence of the outcome of what they did.
So I'm wondering, Prof, are you saying that there is insufficient confidence as we speak? You talked about a phase 3 trial. From what we understand, the AstraZeneca vaccines have already gone through a phase 3 trial. The NAFDAC DG says that what they're looking at is a pharmacological vigilance, I think, which will sometimes could be called a stage 4 of the vaccine. So if anybody should report any adverse effect, they would like to know about it. What are your thoughts on that? And why are you talking about confidence vis-a-vis a stage 3?
You see, the issue is that I remember as a researcher in the 90s, some drugs, some antibiotics were brought to the University of Jos, where I used to practice. And they said they've been tested in Lagos. And I said Lagos is not Jos. We also will have to carry out our clinical trials in Jos. And we did. So it's not an issue of vaccine only. The stage 3, the phase 3 that we're talking about, it's a universal thing. It's not something that's manufactured today. But like I said, this has been waived because of the emergency nature of the COVID. And we agree with that. What we are saying is that, in fact, phase 3 will bring out the pharmacovigilance we are talking about. Phase 4 is just marketing of the product. Phase 4 is marketing of the product. Phase 3 is where we will have documentation of the safety and the effectiveness of the vaccine. So by and large, the issue of confidence, even where it is established, and you read the social media, many Nigerians do not believe that it is going to be effective. They are not even sure whether, in fact, it is a vaccine. So we need to build their confidence. We need to renew their confidence. Like I said, the issue of polio vaccine comes very easily to mind, where even when it was established, they say it was supposed to limit populations in Nigeria, particularly in the northern part of the country, and then other parts were also rejecting the vaccine. That's what we call vaccine hesitancy. So we have to continually build the confidence of Nigerians. Let's not assume that because vaccine has come, everybody will want to take. No, people are very cautious about this. But it is we who should
get you right,
build that
if
confidence.
I understand you, then what you're saying is that you're not quite happy that the health workers have been earmarked to take it first.
No. Of course, we're already on the front line. He who is down fears no fall. You see, even the virus itself, we are facing it squarely as health workers, doctors and health workers. So it is not issue of lack of confidence or that I'm unhappy. What we are saying is that like I said, in administering this vaccine, we must document, we must keep our records. because in the end, we will do the analysis of the records, the number of people who had been vaccinated, the number of people who probably have suffered one side effect or the other, what we call the effect, the pharmacovigilance component, and any other incidental findings that probably will arise from this process. And that is what we are saying. So it's not an issue of the fact that we are unhappy. We are saying that the right things should be done. And doctors and other health workers are prepared to take the vaccine. We know that other people have taken the vaccine. But again, we have what we call idiosyncrasies. Idiosyncrasies where people react to an, react to an issue, to the drugs that is unexpected. And all things probably will happen, but they should be documented. But because that will be part of our experience as a nation.
Just a moment.
And we should share it with the international community.
Yeah. Prof, just a moment. The issue that you've just raised now, this idiosyncrasies and reactions, another leg in the conversation altogether, but we'll take that on when we come from this break. Please stay with us. Staying with us. Prof, you mentioned an issue of the idiosyncrasies of various people to this jab. I'm wondering two things. Number one, is this something that could have been identified, in previous data? And secondly, are we prepared for the idiosyncrasies just in case? Oh, dear. Well, Prof, can you hear me? Well, for now, we do not have Prof back. It would be good to find out if we can, get him back because, there are some videos that have made the rounds, about, when someone takes the medication and then something happens, and then, you see all kinds of things. Perhaps some of those things that that one can react to. So, Prof, if you can hear me now, you talked about the idiosyncrasies of people. In other words, how people will react to the jabs when they take it, too. So, first of all, is this something that, we could have picked up from previous data before now? And secondly, are we prepared, or how prepared are we for those idiosyncrasies? What kinds do you think could be?
Well, let me just say first, the issue of idiosyncrasies and side effects. Again, that is the value of stage 3, of the phase 3 trial. If we had opportunity, but for emergency authorization, we would document our own experience. What are the types of side effects we expect in giving these vaccines? Because we needed to document this, but we don't have that opportunity because of the emergency authorization. It's also true, but I just want to use Panadol as an example. Panadol is a drug that we take and we take it for granted. But you would know that Panadol can kill, or there'll be severe skin reaction from Panadol intake in some persons. But this is not a normal side effects that we are talking about. So this is what we call idiosyncrasy. If Panadol that we take and we take for granted, everybody will buy it over the counter, and one person will take it and then will have severe skin reaction, or will go into a state of shock, or will die. That is what we call idiosyncrasy. And it's not common, but it can happen. And therefore, it becomes difficult to predict. What we would have been able to do, clearly, if we had had opportunity of the phase 3 trial, is the meticulous documentation of side effects. Apart from the efficacy of the side effect, we have to document the side effects so that we have a band of side effects. And therefore, when patients go through have these problems, any patient that has the problem, will have opportunity to discuss and also intervene very early. And that is where what is missing in the phase 3 trial that we have not been able to. It is true that probably they've done this in Europe and America, but we are operating in a different environment. Our genetic compositions are different, and our social circumstances are different. And that is the value of the phase 3 trial that we have. We don't have opportunity to do in this country. But we would take it that after there are some other black people in the world that had taken it, and we have even Nigerians in the UK and the Euro and in the UK and the US who have taken this vaccine. So let's assume, let's take it that probably they are representing Nigeria, but it's not a representative sample if we have to do scientific study. But the reason why everybody is saying that we should go ahead to take it is because of the emergency situation and the call emergency authorization. Otherwise, even the FDA would not have approved it. But the circumstance we find ourselves, the situation we find ourselves, warrants the fact that we have to administer these vaccines. And that will reduce the morbidity and mortality associated with COVID-19. Again, you all know that the biology of COVID-19 is not completely known. Whatever we are doing now is an intervention that is probably immediate. A lot of studies will go on for years to study more of COVID-19. So whatever we are doing now is just palliative, I can say. Let it become palliative because we don't have sufficient time to even know, whether this is a lifelong immunity that it will, that our patients will have, or 2 years, 3 years. The experience is not there. So the truth of the matter is that our documentation will give us the experience. It will give us the evidence at the end of the day that we vaccinated this number of people. These are the people that were prevented or that do not have COVID-19 infection anymore. This is the number of people that had this type of side effect or the other. This is what we did once the side effects are reported. So this is what we call science. It is not about verbalization. We don't be talking about it. We must talk with facts. If whatever we're going to do must be documented. And even the cost per person, we should be able to know at the end of the day, how much does it cost to vaccinate one person in Nigeria? Because that is what is planning, that's what we call planning. And also extrapolate to the future and look into the future and see what we can do. Because it is not just this ceremony, it's going to be continued for some while. It may be prevented by National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. And therefore, we must start from the beginning. And I'm advising that we must document. We must keep records. Once we do this, we would have achieved a lot. And for the first time, Nigeria has nationally kept some form of records since February 27th, when COVID-19 was reported in Nigeria. At least we have seen some resemblance of record keeping. We are told every day the number of people who tested positive. But what is missing is that we are not even told how many were done before this number were positive. Maybe they have it in the archives, but we need to know, because that gives us the confidence of the credibility of the data that we have. And this data will be used to generate other policy plans for this country. And if this is starting with COVID, then I'm very happy with myself. And I'm sure Nigerian doctors and other health workers will be happy that we are generating data for planning, effective and credible data for planning. So in my opinion, we should continue this way. Idiosyncrasies reported, side effects reported. Thank you.
You have heard that the president and the vice president will be taking their jabs tomorrow on live TV. We also understand that members of the Nigeria Governors Forum have also indicated, they've also agreed, so to speak, to also take their jabs in front of live TV to build confidence in the masses. What effect do you think that this could actually have?
Well, let me just say that this is a very positive demonstration of leadership. And I wholeheartedly welcome this, because, you see, leadership is not about, it's more than just leading people. You demonstrate what you say, do what you say. And that is what the president has opted for, and the people, members of the National Assembly. Once they do this, you will find that everybody will fall over one another to also go and struggle to do this. If you recall, look at WTO, Professor Kojewala, the way she ties her head tie now is what almost all women want to tie, because they believe in her, and they believe in her. Whatever she does is good. So of this country would agree to take these vaccines, then Nigerians have no reason to doubt whatever they have said. And I think that the Nigerians will be prepared to take the vaccines without any hesitancy at all. And I think this is a welcome development in this country. And I want to use this opportunity on behalf of Nigerian doctors to thank Mr. President and the leadership of this country for agreeing and accepting to be vaccinated openly, so that everybody would renew his confidence in the vaccine and, of course, in healthcare system. Because, as you know, the healthcare delivery system in this country has gone very, very low. And if the president can help us, and by this process, to rebuild the confidence of Nigerians, I think that NMA will give me my award, actually, because I think that this is a great, great positive move of a leader, and a quality leader for that matter. Thank you.
All right, Prof, if I could just come in here. So we've spoken about research, right? You've spoken about data, rather, but before data, there needs to be some form of research to know what we're looking for in the first place. And you were in charge of NIMA for some time. Now, looking at NIMA's role in this fight against COVID-19, and especially in the area of vaccination, because by mandate, NIMA is meant to conduct research into diseases of public health importance in Nigeria and develop structures for the dissemination of research findings and provide an enabling environment. So NIMA, when you were there, and NIMA now, just how should NIMA have performed in this? Because for some people, they think NIMA is still playing catch-up.
Well, NIMA playing catch-up. The factors that surround that will probably have to be dissected. The truth of the matter is that what you say the mandate of NIMA is what it is. But the enabling circumstances are lacking. NIMA has a very, very good platform. It has built a capacity, human capacity, and equipment. You find that at the beginning of this pandemic, NIMA was all over the place, and it's still all over the place. But NIMA needs to be supported. You see, you cannot conduct research without money. It doesn't work. It's not any lip service. Research is a highly, highly capital-intensive project, and unfortunately, you have to, if you have opportunity to open to the budget of NIMA, you pity NIMA. So it is not enough to establish an institute and believe that money will come from somewhere. We need to invest in health and in health research. That is not seen in Nigeria. I have said it before, even when I was in NIMA, that even we do not value research. You see, the beauty about life is that you cannot invest in what you do not think, you do not value. And what I see in Nigeria is that we not value research. Unlike developed countries like America, the National Institute of Health every year, gives money, gives funds, gives grants to research globally. And in Nigeria, we do not have any organ that gives grants except TEFOND. And TEFOND excludes even NIMA, because they say NIMA is not an education institution. Again, that is another story, because I don't see how a research institute cannot be an education institute because it's resident in the Federal Ministry of Health. So many things are not right, but the truth is that NIMA has the capacity. And you see, capacity will keep on being built. You cannot just build capacity and be static. We have to be dynamic. And that's what NIMA is doing. I believe that if NIMA is supported, by government and private sector, because when we talk about research, it's not just government, it's also private sector, the philanthropists. People who spend money on valueless things and neglect what would help Nigerians to grow and develop. I believe that NIMA is doing the best it can within the circumstances it finds itself, and it should be supported. It should be supported with funds. And you see, you have to have what we call peer review mechanism. NIMA has to go places, send people out for training, and people coming in. I know that while I was in NIMA, we had collaborative effort with Emory University. We have a Nigerian who is in the University of Emory, and he had supported many of our trainings. Even when I left, the process continued because that foundation had been laid. We got grants from National Institute of Health in huge number, in huge amount, but we do not have any organ in Nigeria, and the Nigeria government should quickly put an organ. The National Research and Research Center, I think it's innovative and innovation. Research innovation in Nigeria should be put in place so that it can function the way it should. We should have a granting body, in Nigeria, not just for health, but for other research institutes. And I believe that once that is done, Nigerians can up their game. They can match with any other group in this world. So the answer to your question is that NIMA is not playing a catch-up. NIMA is a moribund because it doesn't have funds to do what it's supposed to do.
Most certainly, those issues that you have raised, Prof, are significant, and we can only hope and expect that, as you said, the right things will be done, especially given that, it's an existential threat, so to speak. Health, is wealth, as we began with, and we want this wealth to increase. Professor Innocent Uja, President, Nigeria Medical Association, thank you so much for your time and thoughts this morning.
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. And hope, and hope. That is all what we stand for. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back. We'll be turning our attention now to the matter which is playing out in Ado-Ekiti. That's the Federal Polytechnic at Ado-Ekiti. We've got Dr. Olabisi Olashainde, who is the chairman of ASUP, Federal Polytechnic at Ado-Ekiti. He joins us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, we did reach out to Dr. Dayo, the rector of the Polytechnic, but he says he's not able to make it this morning. So about this controversy brewing between the union and the rector, well, the comments of the rector are out there, but if you could just give us a background, we'll try and squeeze in as much as we can with the time available. What is going on at the moment? Can you unmute yourself because we can't hear you?
Hello?
Okay, could you go ahead and tell us what is going on with ASUP and the school?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is a kind of dispute between the management and ASUP as regards the payment of CEC claim for 2019-2020 first semester academic section. This semester had been completed for the past 3 months, and results submitted, audited, and we demanded for the payment of our claims. But unfortunately, management refused to attend to that demand. And when second semester exam was to start, we wrote to the management that we are not going to participate in the second semester if the first semester claim is not paid. Unfortunately, management did not attend to that letter, and instead of attending to it, started inviting the HOD, the coordinator, to brainstorm or to coerce them or to direct them to go and start the exam. And on Sunday, they claimed that the money had been paid. And since we all thought that once the money is paid, we are going to start exam on Monday. But it was on Monday we discovered that the payment that was made was selective. They paid the HODs, they paid the coordinators, they paid the executive of ASUP, and about 90% of our members were not paid. But on Monday, they started the exam. And we wouldn't want to disrupt the exam that they have started. We allowed the exam to go on Monday. Let the management realize
All right, we seem to have lost that connection, but we'll go to break now, but we'll return and continue our conversation with Dr. Olabisi Olasende. Do join us again. Okay, welcome back, Dr. Olasende. Well, the rector, part of his response to the industrial action, the strike, the protest by your union is, he says that, quoting him now, that Article 23(1) of the Civil Service Rule provides that ASUP, before you can proceed on the protest, must declare an industrial dispute and give the management 21 days ultimatum following another 7 days. He's saying that your union didn't comply with any of those recommendations before embarking on the strike. Is that right?
Well, yes, I think I have to correct that impression. We did not embark on a strike. We protested. And protest is a way of pressing home our demands. And since management had been earlier informed in writing about almost 6 days to that time, and they refused to attend to our demands, it behoves on us to protest. We have not embarked on strike, and protest is different from embarking on strike. The article he was quoting, or he has quoted, has nothing to do with the protest we did.
Okay, but he is equally saying that, among several things, that your union appears to be taking laws into their hands. And secondly, you are embarking on cheap blackmail, inciting the students against him because you accused him of investing 1 billion naira of the funds to Bitcoin. How did you come about that?
Accusing us for that allegation is quite unfortunate. And I will say that we are matured, we are learned, and as super executive or in my own.
Okay, we seem to be losing you, but if you can, we'll see how we could squeeze that in again. And if you could respond pointedly to what you had raised previously, which is denied. You accuse him of investing 1 billion naira of the funds. Could you talk about is that what you're talking about, the Bitcoin?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Go ahead, please.
We don't know anything about Bitcoin. We don't know anything about that allegation. He's in the position to go ahead and defend himself. ASUP has nothing to do with that allegation. Our position is that our CEC claim must be paid. The migration arrears must be paid, and the cooperative deductions they are owing us should be paid. The issue of 1 billion bitcoins, ASUP don't know anything about it. We read it the same way the public read it. Therefore, accusing us, of course, it is a blackmail. He will have to prove. If he so sure that the allegation has come from us, he has to prove it. And I will say it's a
Oh dear, okay, but if we got what he said right, he's saying that they were equally surprised that the media was quoting him because they mentioned ASUP chairman of accusing the rector of investing 1 billion naira in Bitcoin.
In fact, one of the dailies, I think The Nation, said that during the protests, the chairman, Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, that's Dr. Olasende, had accused the rector of investing 1 billion naira in Bitcoin business, being allegedly, money allegedly earmarked to defray the PT claim. So that's, I mean, pointedly saying that he was the one that, referred to the Bitcoin investment, 1 billion naira. So it's quite interesting for Dr. Olasende to say, well, that didn't come from him. So it's either this is false or what?
Yeah, but we need to ask, unfortunately, the network, the connection, not great. If we could try one more time, guys, let's see if we can, because if you can respond to that, if you're saying you're equally ready, several media outlets are quoting you saying that while you were protesting, but I guess it's something that,
Well, he is denying it.
No, he says, okay, well, he equally ready, but that the rector should go ahead and prove it, whether it's true or not.
Why would the rector prove something that he was not accused of? Anyway, well, what's of concern to me here is the students, because that information is out to the students as well, and it definitely has done huge damage on the integrity of on the name, maybe not the integrity yet, on the name of the institution and perhaps that of the rector as well. It'll also be interesting to find out what Dr. Olasende would have to say about the position of the alumni of the school, who are equally saying, wait a minute, you shouldn't get this far into the public space before, this issue could have been resolved.
But the protest was in public.
Oh, yes, and I'm quite concerned also about the angle of whether it's a protest or a strike. This protest disrupted academic activities right there. And I mean, that's what a strike usually does. A strike hampers the activities meant to naturally take place. So if it's not a protest, why did you have to disrupt academic activities, as it were? But the issues are there.
So unfortunately, we couldn't get that connection back. But we'll move on now to this next subject matter, which is political. The scenario playing out in Ogun State House of Assembly. We've got two gentlemen joining us this morning. Honorable Kadiri Oluwadare is, he was the Deputy Speaker, and then they said that he has been impeached. So we'll hear from him what actually is going on. And then we equally have Honorable Yusuf Adejojo, who is the Chairman, House Committee on Information and Culture for the State Assembly. They both join us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Honorable Oluwadare, let me ask you pointedly. The House say, good morning, they say they have impeached you yesterday. What is your position on that?
Yeah, well, I'm hearing just as you are telling me. I've not been informed officially anyway, that's it. But my position on it is that it's just unconstitutional. It doesn't worry it, and it's just done in bad faith. I don't think, in democracy, this should be allowed to stand.
Okay, but before that incident of yesterday, there were a series of activities that occurred, and they even said that all those notices came to you and that you are aware that the proceedings went on before 19 of the 26th impeached you.
Thank you. Yes, I have to abide with the House rules. They sent me
a notification of impeachment, stating that, a case of insubordination and gross misconduct. I don't know where in this country where, you know what I mean, instructing my lawyer to write a letter to the House of Assembly asking for financial documents as a deputy speaker, which I don't have access to. I don't know where that would be an insubordination. And I have not seen where when the speaker is not on seat and as a deputy speaker, my official car has been bad for 1 week, and I decided to approve 16,000 naira for the repair of my car. We amount to gross misconduct, and even the money it was not even approved. I paid the money myself, and the house is still owing me. So you could have to understand that there is a lot of politics going on here, which I don't understand. I will leave it that way because I'm still discussing my legal team to see the legal.
Okay, Honorable Adejojo, all right, just hang on a minute. Honorable Adejojo, you've heard him saying that, look, this impeachment will not stand the test of time. He says the process is, in fact, there's an abusive process. He doesn't see any reason, even though you listed several, saying or justifying the action of those members.
Thank you for having me on this program this morning. I can listen to him carefully, and based on the report of the committee, the decision was made based on the 2/3 majority of the House of Assembly members. Truly, a notification was served to him, and due process was followed. He was given a chance to respond to the notification, and a 5-man committee was set up, headed by the majority leader of the House, which Honorable Dari Kadri was present with his witnesses and witnesses. And at the end of the committee, the report given to the House, based on the recommendation of the committee, the decision was made, and we have the findings of the committee is also been served to him, and in regards to the 16,000 that Honorable Dari Kadri mentioned about, and the committee actually find out that he doesn't have the right to approve such fund. He only has the right in the absence of Mr. Speaker. That's what is in the observation of the report, which is true. Actually.
But part of what he said now is that if the speaker is not available, he is the rightful person to be in that position, which is what he did, and which is what he's claimed to have been impeached of.
Yeah, in the observation of the committee report, they actually said the speaker is available on the set date. On the set date that the memo was actually approved, the speaker was in the office, so he can only act in the absence of the speaker according to the constitution and the standing rule of the House.
So was that money? Was that money released eventually? Because he says it wasn't released.
I'm not sure if it's released or not. But in the report here says he doesn't have the right to do so.
So let me get this right. When, the report says gross misconduct, it basically means the former deputy speaker approving 16,000 naira to repair his vehicle, the money which you're not sure was eventually given. Is that gross misconduct right there?
In the report here, just 16,000 naira is not just a gross misconduct. There are several series, I want to believe there are several series of allegations which has been going on and which is not in the public. So
tell us about them, because, pardon me, can you then tell us about them? Because gross misconduct can be quite vague. So the 16,000 naira is one of them. You say there are more. So tell us.
Well, I'm not in the best position to reveal all those informations to you here now, because a committee has been set up. Their findings has been recommended to the House, and the majority of the House has actually adopted the recommendation. And I learned he has actually said he will be involving his legal team in this issue, which I think once they get involved, and the House will definitely respond accordingly.
Before I take this back to Mr. Oluwadare, another member of the House said that usually you always have executive meetings before plenary, but yesterday that didn't happen, and he's wondering why didn't that happen? No, that's for you, Mr. Dejaja.
Oh, for me, okay, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes, it's true that we normally have executive meeting, but in some circumstances, which at the discretion of Mr. Speaker, anything might come up that warrants us not to have a committee of whole meeting, which I think that was what happened yesterday, which we couldn't have a committee of whole meeting, and we just had to commence our plenary.
So wait, what came up yesterday?
Hello?
What came up? Okay. All right, Mr. Oluwadare, could you respond to what he said?
Yeah, well, I
Mr. Oluwadare, go ahead, respond. Just unmute yourself. I think you mistakenly muted it. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Hello. So like what he said, I don't think, I don't think you really understand the process of the House. I've been in the House. I'm a ranking member of the House. I've been in the House for 6 years now, so I should know better. Normally, we are supposed to have an executive section.
Go ahead. Just go ahead. We can hear you.
No, normally we are supposed to have an executive session, but that was not done. But that is not even important to me. What is important to me is the process.
What processes were abused?
Yeah, the first process is, when you get to the chamber, there is a standing order that, please let me turn on my TV. Turn the TV down, please. Yeah, I can hear you now. So okay. The processes that are abused is so clear. We have a standing rule of the House that explains the process of impeachment of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. Okay? Now, I agree that the set of the committee, I abided by that, appear before the committee. In fact, it's so funny because
they were
accusing me of cases, assault, insubordination, and gross misconduct. So even when they send a notification to me to appear before the committee,
please go ahead, Honorable.
To answer the other two
Honorable Kadri, please.
Charges of insubordination and gross misconduct. But anyway, I went there, I abide by it, and I was able to defend myself. But the first thing that they don't understand, you cannot be a judge in your own case. The people who signed the removal notice are still the people on the committee. And secondly, when they got to the floor, the standing order said clearly it must be by voting. The 2/3 must be by voting. They collect. What they did was to collect a signature. So are you telling me that they have already preempted before even going to the chambers? So they've already signed and just went downstairs to read the name. That is not the process. That is a prearranged process, which is again the standing rule of the House and Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well,
Those
you
are
have
one of those
also...
things, but I think...
You have also been
I think my legacy will
accused...
be able to find out.
Yeah, you have also been accused of violating the standing rules of the House in that you did not
No. I've never been
expire
accused of that.
or... Just a moment.
Okay.
One of the things that was said against you is that you didn't exploit all internal mechanisms of getting information sought before calling a lawyer.
My brother, guys, listen, everybody, I think it's constitutional for you to, I believe you have your own personal lawyer.
Honorable, we can't hear you again. You may have muted yourself inadvertently. Honorable Kadri, if you can hear me, please go ahead. You seem to have muted your volume again, Honorable Kadri. If you do not mind, please unmute yourself and so that we can hear you.
Oh, it's been a roller coaster.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
So hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. When they allege that you are bringing a third party into the business of the House, I don't think my personal lawyer. I only instructed my lawyer to write to the House to release the information to my office, not to the lawyer. And I don't know where in this country, the financial information of the House, how we manage the resources of the House, will be so secret, will be kept so secret. This is even a document that anybody can ask for, not even me that's Deputy Speaker. If I'm the Deputy Speaker, I don't know how much, I don't know the budget of the House. I don't know how much is our running cost. I don't know how they spend it. And I'm not asking for it. Telling my lawyer to write a letter to them, asking them to provide the document for me. I don't think that's good, man.
Okay. Honorable Adejojo, haven't heard what he said. I mean, people would think that, was it because he tried to blow the whistle or something fishy appears to be going on? How come he doesn't have those details in terms of how the funds are spent as the Deputy Speaker of the House?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to address what he says that probably I don't know what's actually going on, because he has had a 6 years experience. It is not how far, it is how well. And as a Deputy Speaker and the number 2 citizen of the House, all this information, to the best of my knowledge, is available to him, because automatically, as the Deputy Speaker of the House, it's a member of what we call FMC, Fund Management Committee, which the committee sits regularly to oversee the expenditure of the House. And I don't know what other information is requesting for, and which is also in the report of the committee that says as the Vice Chairman of Fund Management Committee, he has direct access to all information. That's number one paragraph of the report. And it also says as the Vice Chairman of the Principal Officers Body, he never reported the matter for discussion, because if you says you need access to all this information and you are not comfortable with the information made available to you, there are lots of internal mechanisms that should have been put in place before involving a legal practitioner in this kind of issue in the House. And also the third paragraph says
that legal practitioner bit, let me just put this in before you proceed. He says, look, I only told my personal lawyer to write to the House such that they can forward those details to me. So how is that an impeachable offense? Why is it listed as an impeachable offense if all the House needed to have done is just to write him saying these are the information you're seeking, or you already have them, as the case may be? No, Mr. Adejojo, that's for you.
I understand because in the first place, I understand that there's a Freedom of Information Act that gives everyone the right to request for information. But as the number 2 citizen of the House, he already has all this information he's requesting for because we have members of the Fund Management Committee that they sit regularly. At least they sit like once or twice a week to...
Yeah, so it's an impeachable offense for him to have written seeking for, assuming he has information already. Is that what that means? Mr. Adejojo, that's for you actually.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Oh dear. Okay, but the other bit, if it's a little clearer now. Well, I was asking you first, how is that? Okay, well, let me ask this because I'm just looking at the time at the same time. He also says all the House did was to collect signatures and then announce that these people have impeached him, that there was no voting on the floor of the House.
No, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Adejojo, we can't seem to get that right.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if the Nigeria was 19, I have the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, Federal Republic of Nigeria, with amended 2001. Is Section 92C, Section 92C stated clearly. I want to read it out for everybody to understand it, that if it is to remove from office by resolution of the House of Assembly by voting of not less than 2/3 majority of the members of the House. By voting. Was there any vote? They only collected signatures. The signatures was even collected before they got to the House. Was the signature, did they sign in the House? They signed before they came in. That was just violation of our Constitution. It's a very simple thing.
The question anyone would want to ask you there, Honorable Kadri, would be if you have any verifiable evidence of that one. But before we go there, Honorable Kadri, you are chairman or were chairman of the Fund Management Committee. How come you don't have this information that you needed to write a lawyer for? That's what the other honorable said.
I resigned from that committee because that committee, look, I have conscience, and I resigned from that committee sometimes in December. Yes, it's an automatic seat for me. The speaker is the chairman, while I'm deputy chairman, vice chairman, being the deputy speaker anyway. But I can tell you that since I got to this House of Assembly, we've never sat. It's only you, people coming to tell you to sign one document. I said, no, I can't keep doing this. I don't have any of this document. I don't know how much is being released to us as our running cost. I don't know how much is being spent. I don't know how they run the House. And you said I'm the deputy speaker, and you are saying I'm the vice chairman of Fund Monitoring Committee. I resigned voluntarily from that committee.
Honorable, are you suggesting that there was something untoward going on there, bordering on corruption, and then you didn't want to be part of it?
That is what I'm saying. That is what I'm trying to expose. The corruption in the House is what I'm trying to expose. And I don't think this will consume me. The good people of Nigeria should look at it from the angle that how can you be in a committee that, you see, it's so funny.
But did you notify the AFCC of any of this upon suspicion?
That was the internal mechanism I'm trying to adapt to.
Will you be doing that much later?
I don't think I will allow my legal team to decide whatever they want to do. I don't want to go there now, but I think the FCC is already hearing this already. They might, if they are interested, and I'll be there for them to the EFCC, right. ICPC. There's not for NQ. I'm available for everybody.
Honorable Adejojo,
come and ask me questions.
Okay, as we wind down, Honorable Adejojo, just briefly, in addition to the fact that he says you didn't vote, what do you say to this?
First of all, when he was served and he was served the impeachment notice, he has been stripped of his position, and
yeah,
I don't know
but
where
just
he got
quickly,
that information
was there any
from.
voting on the floor of the House?
There wasn't a voting, but there's a constitution. The constitution says our activities in the House of Assembly will be guided by the standing order, which states in the standing order that once we have the 2/3 in adopting any recommendation of the committee, 2/3 of the members of the members present in the House, that is allowed.
So that is contrary to the Constitution, saying which you have to vote to impeach him.
Hello?
The law says you're supposed to vote. The Constitution says you're supposed to vote. Okay, all right, Honorable Jojo, it means that you didn't vote, contrary to what the law stipulates, citing House rules. Who knows? But gentlemen, we do thank you all for talking to us today. Honorable Yusuf Adejojo, Chairman House Committee on Information, and then we also he's contesting it now as the Deputy Speaker of Ogun House of Assembly, Honorable Kadiri Oluwadare. Gentlemen, thank you both for talking to us today. All right, so there you go. That is the show today. We thank you all for watching. Apologies, we can't take your comments, but we will see you again next week. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
I'm Kayode Kikiolu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful weekend.
Well, thank you for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.